Hey everyone, welcome back to the series, and now that I'm making this video, I'm realizing that this probably should have been part 1, so I'm going to dub it part 0. And what we're talking about today is the absolute necessity and effective use of a metronome at all times. Now, as percussionists, this is quite literally like our thing. We have to play in time. There are no ifs, ands, or buts unless you're playing some form of freeform jazz, but we should always aim to play as perfectly in time as possible. It's pretty much the only way we can hope to kind of play together, because if we don't have some kind of baseline understanding of how music fits into time itself, then we pretty much stand no chance to play together. It might be together for the most part, it might be kind of clean, but chances are it's going to be gray and it's not going to be as clean as you want it to be, simply on the fact that not everybody has the same understanding of time and playing rhythms within that time. Now, something that really gets me frustrated is that it's very easy for people to teach. Now, something that gets me really frustrated is when people just kind of yell at students to use a metronome, like use a metronome, use a metronome, use a metronome. It's very easy to just, say that, but not teach people how to use a metronome. So that's kind of what we're going to go over today, and some tips and tricks that we can do to make our metronome use much more effective than just, putting it on the quarter note. First and foremost, never do anything without a met. No matter how little you're practicing, you could be putting it on for 5 minutes, use a metronome. The more you decide not to use a metronome, the more you're reinforcing bad habits. You are literally practicing how to not play in time. And by consistently having that baseline measure of time, something that is, computed down to the last microsecond, then you give yourself a better chance at playing in time all the time. And I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but it's quite literally like, why not? Why not always set yourself up for success all the time? Next is something that is also most times obvious, but people don't really give it the kind of importance to kind of solidify it in the practicing patterns of their students, and it's deciding to go slower when you can't play something fast. And the notion always is, if you can't play it slow, you can't play it fast. That is true in most cases, but you need to be surprised how many people get away with playing things fast and not being able to play things slow. And it's just because there's less space when you're playing faster, so it's easier to kind of get away with things. There's less control involved a lot of the time, because you can, in something like a fast triplet roll, you can kind of just throw diddles into the check pattern and pray that it's going to be clean for the most part. And chances are it will be, compared to, playing a nice fat triplet roll at like 100, 120 beats per minute. Something like that requires so much more control than trying to just, ram some diddles into a triplet check at 172, 180. And although some people kind of exaggerate by saying, turn it all the way down, I believe that it is no exaggeration. You should try to turn it down probably with anything you're having trouble with, right off the bat, half tempo. And you know what? If you can play it at half tempo, that's fine. Great. Move it up 10 clicks. And if you can't play at those 10 clicks, then move it up 5 clicks. And if you can't play at those 5 clicks, then move it up 2 clicks. The whole point is that you're incrementally getting better, and as you're practicing at slower tempos, your understanding is also exponentially growing. If you can process things that slowly and you adjust your brain to kind of see and perceive things at that tempo, then when you get faster, it's gonna kind of when you get faster, it kind of feels like the Matrix. Like, it feels like everything's kind of happening in slow motion, because your understanding is so rooted in your extensive practice at slower tempos. That's why a lot of good musicians are really able to, jump back in after breaking in the law, or, in any type of music, making a mistake, they can kind of just come back in, because they have this fundamental understanding that they know exactly where everything is, how it relates to time, and where they can just jump back in. And although that does come from talent and practice, it also comes from, practicing with a metronome. So again, cut it down a half tempo and then bring it up to, I like to do 10 clicks, but you can bring it up 5 and then 2 if you really can. And you know what? Even 1, as long as you're incrementally stepping towards the right direction, there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with just, slowly getting better. After that, we go into subdivisions within the metronome. Now, doing something like this will make it a lot easier for you to audiate in your mind before you play something. Now, what's audiate? Audiating is if I'm playing a triplet based exercise and the tempo is right here, you got chaka-cha, 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 chaka-cha. You're thinking that in your head before you come in, so when you come in, you already have a perfect preconceived notion of time. Doing this is a lot like dudding or counting before you play. It's just in more concise increments. And well, how do you do this, right? A lot of metronome apps, like for example, I'll give you guys a close-up. The one I use for my phone is called TE Tuner, and it looks something like this. I'll give you a little bit of a close-up. And as you can see on these paid apps, it is just so nice because you have all these possible subdivisions, time signatures, all these rhythms you can just split the beat into, and it makes it nice and easy. But we don't get that luxury with the free app, so we're gonna learn to deal with that. Now, I did pay for this app, so I'm able to do the subdivisions within the app. I know most apps don't allow you to get the subdivisions without paying for them, and that kind of sucks, honestly, but it's okay. I'm sure there's an app out there that lets you subdivide for free, but in the instance that you can't afford it, and that's fine too, there is actually a very easy way around this by doing some simple math. So something like, I was trying to teach 16th notes to a student here, and I was trying to, I didn't have this app at the time, so I was trying to figure out how to subdivide into 16th notes, and all you have to do is multiply whatever tempo you're at by 4. And most metronomes only kind of go up to 300, so you can't really do it often for 16th notes, but for triplets it's a lot more conceivable because it's a smaller subdivision, smaller subdivision, and eighth notes and quarter notes becomes a lot easier. So if I wanted to teach this person to play 16th notes at, let's say, at this point we were at 75 beats per minute. So what I would do is let me get the bigger screen. So, for example, I'm going to show it on the bigger screen on my iPad. If we wanted to play something at 75 beats per minute, if I'm trying to teach a student to play 16th notes at 75 beats per minute, I would multiply it by 4. And the accent's on 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? But to get something loud and obnoxious that is going to do just the trick, you can scroll. This is the free version that I have on all my devices, and I'm sure many people have. You can just put it to 75, right? We got that. And if I bump it up to 300, I hope this goes to 300. And it does. Wow, it goes further than 300. 300, we could do another example in a little bit, but we got 300, right? So now we got... super annoying. But we'll get you to play in time very well. And this is important for you to be able to audiate things in the future. The more you practice audiating, the better you'll be, right from the downbeat at playing things in time. It just becomes kind of a second nature, a second language for you. Just like you think about something before you speak it, you think about these rhythms before you play them. Another example could be if I wanted to play some kind of triplet check exercise, triplet roll exercise at 100, right? So I'd go back to my paid app. Let's see what we got here. 100 beats per minute, and the subdivision is triplets. So we got... right? And if I wanted to get triplets on the metronome here, I would just multiply my tempo times 3, right? Because they're triplets. So we go to 300 here. We keep it at the same tempo we were at before, and it'll be... It'll be a little harder to figure out the quarter note, but not anything too crazy. An easy way to hack this also is you can change the time signature, and at this point you're kind of doing a lot of math, but I changed it to 3/4, and I made the first beat a little louder than the other two, so you really have, a metronome at 120 that is playing triplets. And this is important for a lot of reasons, not just the monetary side of it. If you just can't afford a metronome that will subdivide for you, you can also use this for, tricking yourself purposes. Again, back to the original premise of this video. But, sometimes the understanding with subdivisions is a little hard to grasp because they're just so caught up on the idea of doing so much math in their head. Like, I'm dividing 4 beats by 3, so that gives me 12. And then it just keeps snowballing in their head. And I just kind of like to simply put it in terms of the subdivisions here. So, for an example, I'm talking a lot, not getting anywhere. For example, if I was trying to get somebody to play eighth notes at 100, right? And I had the subdivision on, right? On my paid app. So we got... subdivision for eighth notes. For some reason, it's a lot easier to grasp for a lot of people when you just explain to them that it's like playing quarter notes at 200, right? Because they're not thinking about dividing the quarter note into two. They're kind of just thinking about playing quarter notes at 200. And I know that's something a little weird to grasp, but I've seen it so often in my career where it's just like, for whatever reason, it kind of takes away the thinking and the math behind it. And I just have to say something like play with the click, right? Quarter notes at 200. And quarter notes at 200 are eighth notes at 100. So after I kind of like, indoctrinate them into playing quarter notes at 200, I'll turn the metronome back to 100 and be like, all right, let's do the same thing. And it'll instantly fix itself. It's some kind of weird Jedi mind trick that I've realized works over the years. And it's a Jedi mind trick in that I couldn't get a student to play 16th notes at 80 beats per minute, but I could get them to play quarter notes at 320 beats per minute. And I know it sounds ludicrous, but trust me, if you've run out of options, try this, and I will almost bet money that it will break through your student. So moving on now, instead of playing into smaller increments, we're going to be playing into larger increments, increments that are more spread out and to a point where you're kind of taking notes out of the metronome to train yourself to be a human metronome. And this helps a ton with learning to keep time and really like learning your internal pulse and learning to keep that internal metronome on all the time. And so I'm going to go on to demonstrate. What do I mean by that? Well, if I'm playing eights at 120, right? We got right? And I would go on to, all right, well, let's take, beats 2 and 4 out. So we take beats 2 and 4 out. We got, and what you want to do is this is going to train you to not rely on the quarter note every time. And what I do before I play, usually when I put the metronome on like this, is I'll audio it in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I'm ready for my rep. Yep, and that was a little early, so I need more practice too. But you get the point. At this point, you can even train yourself to tone it down all the way to just the downbeat. So I'm gonna take the down, everything and put the downbeat out, and we got 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And now that we're at just the downbeat, you really, really have to rely on your audiation skills. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so that was a lot better than my first rep. And that really works, with anything. I use eighth notes as kind of an easy example, but you can obviously try it with quarter notes, which is probably the block you should take first, the first building block. And now if we tried it with triplets, we got, right? And now we can take out 2 and 4. 2, 3, 4. Chaka-cha, 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 chaka-cha. And now that you've gone through all the other steps, you can practice your just downbeat audiation with your triplets. And this one is honestly a little hard. And even, getting into denser stuff, it's going to get a little harder. I think the more open rhythms are hard, and triplets being, uneven makes them a little more difficult. But I'm going to try to demonstrate without being 2 at a time. 3, 4. Chaka-cha, 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 chaka-cha. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And then again, if you want to try it with 16th notes, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Honestly, a little better than I thought it was going to be. So there you have it. Last thing really is, again, like it is in any of these videos that I'm going to make, doing all this to your feet. Doing all this to your feet will actually help your internal metronome even more. And I can go ahead and demonstrate it, but it would be kind of the same thing over and over again. So I'm not going to do that. But something like this would really, really help you with your feet. All right, I'll do it with one thing. I'll do it with eighth notes. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And as you can see, putting your feet and implementing your feet into these wider subdivisions will really, really, really flex your internal metronome muscles. I mean, you're gonna be basically a bodybuilder of internal time, and it feels really good to not just play in time, but have that confidence knowing that you are doing everything in your power to play as well as you can within the ensemble that you're playing within. I've already made this video longer again than I wanted to, but I hope this helps. I'll try to, get some kind of feet cam in for the next couple of videos since feet is involved in everything. But I just wanted to give you guys the gist of the workings of playing with the metronome in the micro sense and the macro sense, and how to get around the paywall, and how to just kind of trick yourself into thinking about things differently so you can understand time better and develop yourself in a way that maybe you're not used to. Maybe you're not used to doing these kinds of subdivisions. And if that is the case, I'm really excited for you to be a better percussionist as a result, because something like this changed my life, especially the macro tempo thing where you take out beats as you go. You take out 2 and 4, or even 1 and 3, and you take out every beat but the downbeat, and it really made me learn my internal drive and really made me kind of like more confident. Like, that was really, I think, the biggest benefit that I reaped from all this is I would just, the confidence was just so vital, because I knew that I was playing in time from the intense amount of practice that I was putting into just, developing my internal pulse. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to keep, again, trying to pump these videos out weekly. I'm committed. I'm going to do it. I said I was going to do it last year and I didn't do it. I'm going to do it. It might not be these videos every time, but there's going to be something out every week. Hope you guys are being safe, and I cannot wait to see you apply all of this into your practice. That's all.